trying to sell this house, it is a 1 out of 5. How are you going to sell that?
It's just so crazy in this industry, the things that we come across.
Yeah, you have to find a reason or your why gets you super fired up.
I think that one thing that we're doing is we're focusing on the positives and we're focusing on growth.
Welcome back to your favorite podcast on the planet, Realty Talk Podcast. We've kind of gotten away from nicknames.
I was just thinking that. We haven't done that in so long. We've got to bring the nicknames back.
The queen of the closing table.
I had a list of like 30 for you. So I need to revive that list. I'm going to have it by next podcast, but a solid 30 options. So.
Did you have a nickname growing up?
No, but everyone goes with the Susie Q when I was growing up because, that movie back then that was popular.
Don't date yourself.
I did. But yeah, no,
didn't.
That was pretty much it. Yeah. Yeah.
My family called me Conan the Barbarian.
That's an interesting one.
Yeah, because I was just a menace, basically.
A little monster.
Yeah. That's
playing with dirt and I can imagine from your stories. I think I could see it.
Yeah, childhood photos are mostly me in cowboy boots, cut off jean shorts, and a mullet.
Can we clip to any of these photos?
No, I refuse. I am even. That's the one thing I'm going to do is ensure that photo never gets out.
Okay, got it.
So what's new? I mean, we've had a lot of really interesting guests on.
Yeah.
And this is the first podcast back where it's,
we
in a
get
couple
to catch
weeks.
up a little bit. Yeah.
What's going on?
It's raining in California, which
currently downpour.
Currently raining, hence the hat. But so we're seeing some mudslides potentially. I feel like we're just constantly talking about natural disasters that are happening every time we hop on the podcast, which is every week. So. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're forecasted to get 1 inch of rain in the greater LA basin this today, which I would not normally be worried about mudslides with 1 inch of rain. I mean, that's a lot of rain, but after those fires in the Palisades, could be ugly.
Yeah. So we'll see what happens there. The sad thing is that even with all this rain, Big Bear is not getting any snow.
Oh.
So skiers, snowboarders, no such luck.
Yeah.
But yeah, so crazy things happen in the rain. Honestly, things get a little hectic. So.
I've actually, I've never skied Big Bear. I've never skied California in general.
Yeah, that's crazy.
It's hard. I'm like a ski snob.
Got it.
Growing up in Utah, the snow's so amazing. The train's good. It's an 1.5-hour flight from here.
Yeah. That feels fair, especially the past few years because Big Bear has been getting nothing. Mm-hmm. So I get it. And that's an 1.5-hour drive from here. So it's if you can just pop on a flight and be with the best snow ever, I kind of get it.
So so current events are rain. California seems crazy. What about for the brokerage for you? What's new? Are you adopting any new dogs?
No new dogs. I have my hands full with what I got going on, especially with rain. Any dog owner knows that when it rains, it is tough times with your animals. So fun mornings for me, but no, with the brokerage, it's actually really good. I think, we went through our planning sessions this year, and I think, what's really cool at the brokerage is we've got a really great team that I think contributes with, everyone is on the same page where they want to see the success of the brokerage. Mm-hmm. So I'd say exciting new initiatives. And I think everyone's kind of pumped up. I think, it's easy in any industry at any time to really focus on the negatives. And I think that one thing that we're doing is we're focusing on the positives and we're focusing on growth. And I think we've always, as a brokerage, we've always operated that way. Not everything is perfect, but things are good. And, I think the market in general, we talk about it every week. It hasn't been easy for real estate agents, but we're seeing some really big wins for some of our agents, which excites me, and it drives me to help facilitate more of those wins.
Yeah, I think like related to market. I mean, we should probably talk about that a little bit. I mean, the political climate is very interesting. Mm-hmm. I'm getting fully, I'm very intrigued, I guess is the way I would explain it, about the new initiatives that are being pushed. Doge with Elon is pretty interesting. The way I view that stuff, I always go back and look at history and understand, okay, so if things like this have happened in the past, what were the outcomes? Mm-hmm. And Reagan essentially put the U.S. economy into a recession for 2 years. Mm-hmm. To right-side spend and to do all these things. I think that's like the last time, at least that I've been able to research. I might be wrong, but that I've seen something like what's happening today occur. But on the backside of that 2-year recession was one of the biggest booms in the U.S. economy that's ever been here. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I mean, it's interesting. My opinion, with what's happening in today's market globally, not just in the real estate sector, is that there's this huge political focus on cutting costs, cutting, inefficient expenditures, getting efficient, right? And I think there's a really strong argument that interest rates, I know we're going to talk about that a little bit today, but they might not go down. They may stay flat, go up,
right?
For a long period of time, 18 months, 24 months, and it may feel harder, mm-hmm. In certain industries than easier. There's an interesting trickle-down effect with these tariffs and everything. I mean, mm-hmm. and with massive deportation, labor costs are going to go through the roof. Material costs might, mm-hmm. substantially increase. And when those things happen, obviously it's going to be hard to get a handle on inflation and then rates. And so, I'm just really, really sensitive to what's happening.
Right.
Because, it is generally, I mean, you can look at it two ways. It could be really painful for a long period of time. But the people that make it through that painful period are going to have a massive opportunity. And so that's what I've been thinking about a lot at the Innovate level, which mm-hmm. is how do you inspire agents to take the small actions that differentiate themselves from other agents, mm-hmm. To continue doing good business and not focus on the byproduct of the good business, like continue cold calling, continue, mm-hmm. Holding open
doing
houses.
The actions, yep.
Yeah, and less focused on my total GCI at the end of this year, more focused on, am I taking the right steps? Am I putting myself in the right positions? And then, if they are able to make it through that, then obviously on the back end, it's going to be a really exciting opportunity.
Yeah.
I don't hear a lot of people talking about that yet.
Yeah. Well, I think
at Innovate I do. Sorry.
Yeah. No, and I think that people are talking about headlines and, fed things one way or another. But I think what you're saying is if we dissect that a little bit, it's very realistic that interest rates are probably going to either stay the same or go up. And I think that a lot of people were anticipating that wasn't going to be the case.
Right.
And so what does the preparation look like and how do you hold the course and then, and potentially not make what you anticipated to make this year. And I guess I would say, I had a conversation right before this with one of our top agents at the brokerage. And I thought it was a really interesting take because one thing she was talking about was the emotional side of real estate and that a lot of people don't talk about that aspect where, yes, interest rates are a little higher. Yes, home prices are higher. And this is something that we're experiencing and having conversations on a day-to-day basis. But also, what she was kind of driving home is there's still an emotional piece to real estate to keep people to entice people to buy, which is, a fresh new change, and that feeling that you get when you buy something new. So we talk about the feelings a lot, but that does impact and sway consumers, that are in the market. So it's not always about what current interest rates are and what the current home values are, but it's about the feeling, and then also about what that looks like when you're going to resell the home. Like if you're planning on living in your home for 5+ years, like, why do you care right now? You don't. Like, you get your new home, you're feeling good, and ultimately all that matters is long term, like, you don't lose money on your property. So there's still a decent argument to moving forward and keeping things moving in our market. And I think it's just being the person that is able to explain those points, and help educate your buyers based off of what they really need or want. And some of that might just be no, like with interest rate, and that's okay. Like that might be what they decide. But I think, understanding that there's more to it than just rates.
Yeah. I the way I think about that is it comes down to 2 data points: buyer confidence, right? So or consumer confidence. And then affordability. And if affordability is really easy and everything's good, but you're unconfident in the future, then you don't buy.
Right.
If confidence is really high, but affordability or whatnot is really low, then you don't buy. So there's like this area where kind of the 2 cross, and that's where transactions occur. And I think what we've seen in the last 18 months is that there's a lack of confidence that was stemming from an unclear political environment. And there was a lack of affordability, or I would say, I guess, perceived affordability, because they also anticipated that there was going to be a change. So instead of really a affordability issue, it was, I think they're going to get better.
Yeah.
And so I'm going to wait.
Yeah.
And now people, I believe this year, will go, oh, it's not going to change, and that's fine. My confidence is there now, and affordability is still there. 7% mortgage is actually, I mean, it sounds high to a lot of people, but it's not that bad.
Not relatively,
you may not be buying, that 1.5, house, $1.5 million house. Maybe you're buying at 1.2 or 1.25. So you're buying a different product,
right?
But I don't think that you can argue, and this is people I don't hear talking about it enough. I don't think you can argue the fact that boomers are selling.
Yeah.
And we're going to see an increase of baby boomers selling single family homes for the next 20 years. So somebody's going to buy that.
Yeah.
And that would be my call of action. Like if I was on, CNN tonight or Fox News or whatever, and they asked my opinion, I would basically be arguing, look, are you going to rent or are you going to own something?
Yeah.
And go out and fucking buy, because boomers are going to be selling, and if you don't buy, if you don't find a way to have confidence, you may not be getting what you want in the long run. But if you don't buy today, you're going to lose all of that equity,
right?
And you're never going to be able to get what you want in the long run.
Yeah, you're just paying someone else's mortgage.
That's right.
So, yeah, it's so funny because I agree. I think when Trump got elected, I got multiple text messages that were like, so excited for rates to go down. And I'm like, I don't know if you guys have looked at the full picture here with these. I mean, experts were saying with the tariffs that like this, you should not anticipate that rates are going to go down. But I think there was that, misconception that it was like automatic rates were going to go down. And even my neighbor approached me a couple days ago and she's like, is the market improving? Because I think people are really excited now that Trump's in office and, things are getting better and I can just feel it. And I'm like, I actually don't think that that's accurate, but I understand that is the perception right now. And I think as time, unfolds, I think people are going to realize you can't keep waiting, If you want to buy, you got to buy. Like, stop waiting for either the crash, which we hear, or rates to go down, because, you got to get creative with the programs that are already out there. Because there are great options to actually buy with higher interest rates. There's the buy down programs and interest only. Like, there are options to, if you can, if you want to buy, you can buy.
Yep.
So,
yeah, I think the on the real estate agent side, what I see happening at Innovate, and full disclosure, I think everyone knows, like I'm a partner there, and so this will sound extremely biased, but and I guess the other caveat is I do a lot of research because I want to win in the businesses that I'm a part of. What I see other brokerages doing is talking a lot about market. They're saying, hey, when the market gets better, you're going to make more money, so just wait. What I see us doing at Innovate, or you doing at Innovate, which is really inspiring, is saying, okay, as an agent, the market's going to do what it's doing. Mm-hmm. Don't allow the market to affect your ability to be successful.
Yeah.
Look at the actions that you can take on a daily basis to be successful.
Right.
Because most of the time, people get really wealthy in a down market. And it's the people that put in a little bit more grit, that focus a little more and take actions that other people aren't willing to do.
Right.
And that's when you can go and reap the benefits, right? And so...
Yeah, and that opportunity is now. Like that is what we are experiencing. So
it's an unpopular opinion, though. So I think it's a tough, this is kind of a statement and a question. But what I see you doing is really inspiring because you're beating that drum every day. It's not an easy message to deliver. So if you are a real estate agent, regardless of where you're at, if you are interested in kind of putting it on cruise control, or you're not really interested in accountability and you're not really interested in getting a little bit better, you don't want to hear that message. Mm-hmm. So how are you wrestling with that at Innovate? Yeah. Because and I think all the agents at Innovate are great, but I'm sure we have some percentage of Innovate agents that are like, oh man, that's like, like going out and calling, or, waking up at 7 a.m. and refreshing my list to go and, cold call or knock on doors or whatever. That doesn't sound like a thing I want to go and do.
Yeah.
How do you wrestle with that as a leader, and how do you inspire people to go and do it? And,
for what I've experienced is I actually love this about you too, but I am willing to help anyone if they don't know or they need a path to focus on. But they have to want it for themselves, And so I can't, we have 150 agents at Innovate, and I can't spin my wheels with the same people that don't want it. You always say like, I can't want it more than them.
Yep.
And that's honestly how I feel. I think, when we're not going to sugarcoat it when things are challenging. We're going to I can openly admit that, when the market's a difficult market, but there are still things that you can do to be successful. And, I think one thing that we do well at Innovate is we do kind of open up, but give you a peek behind the curtain of how you can be successful, but you have to want to do those actions. And so I think at a certain point, it's a cycle where I will always, if someone wants to learn, if someone wants to be better, if someone wants opportunities, I will take all the time in the world for that person, but they have to want it. And if they don't want it, then I will focus on someone that does.
Yeah. Yeah. Generally when you do that, though, if the leader of an organization is doing that, everyone kind of wants to follow suit. Mm-hmm. So if there's 10 people on a team and 8 people are really inspired and switched on, the 2 that aren't are either going to get switched on and be excited, or they're going to leave, because it's uncomfortable to be in an environment with top producers that are taking uncomfortable action and not taking it.
And ultimately, I think that's okay. Like, I think everyone has to follow their path, and maybe specifically real estate isn't for that person, and that's okay. I think everyone has their thing, and I'm a big believer. I mentioned it in a meeting that I hosted this morning where we were talking about changing your surroundings. It's like if you are surrounded by people that are like doom and gloom and, everything is awful, like you are not going to be succeeding. I promise you that. Like the people that you surround yourself with are so important. Yep. And that's the same way for us too. And the brokerage. And so, for me, that culture, the positive culture, and, yes, we are realistic and not perfect for sure, but we all support each other, and we know that in a difficult market, it's important to be surrounded by that, because real estate is hard enough. I was saying it earlier, like a transaction is hard enough. So don't spend any more time on anything else that is not going to be bringing you joy, because your job's already hard enough.
Yeah. I think it's the same in most industries. You just have to, you have to find a reason or your why, that gets you super fired up and gets you inspired to take action that is uncomfortable. But you brought up an amazing point. I mean, I think the 5 people you spend the most time with are ultimately who you become. Mm-hmm. And, that is not a popular opinion, so if you are one of our listeners right now and you're in a position in your life where you're not satisfied, right? And satisfied is a scary word because, maybe it alludes to the fact that you're comfortable, but I mean, you're not happy with your current production, whether that's income or whatever. I think the challenge is go and find 5 people that align with what you're looking for.
Yeah.
And spend time with them.
Right.
Because you will naturally gravitate towards that, right?
Right.
But that's really uncomfortable.
Yeah. With inventory being low, I think it's important to talk through maybe what consumers should look for when they are purchasing a home. Are there any? I wanted to talk about red flags. So, what are some red flags that consumers should be looking for when inventory is low like this? So they don't have a lot of options. And making sure that they're purchasing the right home. Like, what are some things that you've come across that are just right away red flags that kind of either cancel out for that property or potentially, warrant maybe a price reduction?
As a consumer, like as me as an individual or as an investor?
As a buyer.
A buyer.
Yeah.
Not as an investment buyer,
Not
but just
as
as
an
a
investment buyer. No.
Yeah, I mean, for me, like, it's really, I call them, negative characteristics. And when there becomes, like, I'm usually pretty comfortable buying something if there's one negative characteristic. Mm-hmm. But if you start to see stacking negative characteristics, then it's pretty much a no. So, when you look at the layout of a home, for example, that's not really a negative characteristic, because you can change it, right? So you may not be able to change it in that moment. Yeah. You may not be able to change it in that exact moment, but over time you might be able to. But I think like it's really for me personally, it's where I'm at. So the people that I'm living by, I use the word intensity. It's probably not the right word, but are they interested in maintaining a nice residence? And are they
going to put gargoyles on top of their roof?
Yeah.
Like one day out of nowhere so that every room in the house you can stare out the window at gargoyles on the neighbor's roof?
Yes, that is a story. We bought a house, not personally, this was an investment property in LA, and our neighbor put 8-foot gargoyles on the roof.
Yeah. It's been really fun selling that. Because what do you say there? I mean, it's like everything else in the home is honestly perfect.
Oh, man.
And yeah. So anyway, that's a whole nother story for a whole other day. We have more stories to talk about today. But I guess, for when I'm talking with my buyers, I think, you're not as scared, I would say, of most things that pop up in inspections because like how to fix it.
Yeah.
For the average buyer, typically they get really concerned about foundation issues, but oftentimes that's actually not a deal breaker. You really need to dig in and see, what is actually wrong and what needs to be done. So I always recommend them digging in a little deeper and getting a foundation report. But really, like, what do we have to do to fix this? Because actually, I think sometimes it's a positive where you can get a really good deal on a house, and it's not a difficult fix, So
that's it's kind of what I was getting at. Like the negative characteristics that are uncontrollable are, the community, the road that it's on, if you're underneath an airport, those are things you can't ever change.
Right.
To me, if I'm going to buy something personally and I do an inspection and there's a crack in the foundation or there's, the sewer line is jammed up or something, that's great.
Yeah, you're excited.
Yeah, I mean, because it's like even a major foundation problem, like unless there's, I guess, well, let's nail that one, right? So if there's a major foundation problem, something caused it. Is it a tree? Is it, was there a big tree that had to get removed? Or was it expansive soil? That might be a complete like I'm just not buying that, right?
Yeah.
But that goes back to kind of the geography. Is it hillside? Like, is this thing falling off a hill? And so there's just like risk there. But if it's a normal situation, there's just a cracked foundation due to an old tree or something. I mean, the perspective I have is that seller's going to have to go and repair it anyways.
Yeah.
Or somebody's going to come in and pay a lot less.
Right.
And then they're going to repair it.
Definitely.
And so if all of the other characteristics meet your desire, like the layout works or the location's amazing, then get a really strong opinion, maybe 3 opinions of what it would be to repair it, and then work a deal out with the seller.
Yeah.
And you don't even have to go and repair it. You could counter that in. They could go and fix it on their dollar.
Yeah.
And you transact and move into the house you wanted, right?
Right. Yeah.
So I think people get really freaked out about inspections.
Yeah.
And it's really not, I mean, the stuff that the negative characteristics that I'm talking about that turn me off, you should already be able to see those before an inspection occurs.
Totally.
So this is the community you're living in, the street that the house is on, the schools that your kids are going to go to. Like I think, for example, in our local market, Dover Shores, it's a beautiful neighborhood. The houses are amazing. Community's awesome. But there's a shitload of airplane noise. Yeah. Like it's right underneath the runway.
Yeah.
For John Wayne Airport.
Yeah.
So that's just a characteristic you can't change.
Yeah.
Right. So are you okay with it or not?
Exactly. Yeah. Yep. I have to agree. Okay. On that note, I am excited to jump into one of our stories because I think it's time for Homes Gone Wild. So I'm going to turn it over to you. Okay. Our listeners love your expressions and your input here. So take it away.
So this is for newer listeners, and I think we should reference that. We're getting new listeners every week, which is great, and we appreciate you tuning in and listening to our messaging. We have a segment we do most weeks called Homes Gone Wild. This is a story I'm going to read. I've not seen this story yet, so I'm excited to read it. But I'm going to read it, and we're going to react to it. Okay. So here we go. My first showing, so this is an agent, was at a duplex, top and bottom, with a buyer and their family. It was a distressed property. The lower unit was fine, though very old, dirty, and smelled unpleasant. Okay.
Uh-oh.
We went upstairs and found a woman sleeping on the couch in the upper unit.
Okay.
Which reeked of weed, cigarettes, and was in terrible condition. Sounds like a good time.
Okay.
We tried calling her out, to her, but she didn't respond.
No.
So we started exploring the unit with all 5 of us, plus me. As we were looking around the living room where she was sleeping, she finally woke up. Okay, so she's not dead.
Whew. I was like, she's dead for sure. This is the smell.
And screamed in shock at seeing us all there. She had no teeth and appeared to have a pipe on the coffee table.
Oh, no.
What kind of pipe? Like a Gandalf pipe or like a meth pipe? Or after a brief conversation, we went into the bedroom, which looked like something straight out of a Hoarders TV show. The trash was piled up 5 feet high and cockroaches everywhere. Oh. Sounds like they need smart pest control.
Yeah.
The smell was unbearable. We quickly left, and I remember thinking, what kind of career have I gotten myself into? But thankfully, everything has worked out since then.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, just saying, that would have been a great opportunity for her to call one of her investors.
Yes.
Like, bye house. You love that house.
I'm buying it.
You want that house.
Yes. It reminds me of, it's like a depressing story, but I mean, probably the worst feelings, like the most negative emotions I've ever had in a real estate transaction. This is early in the business cycle at Buy House, like a year into it. So we're advertising on TV, getting direct to consumer leads. And we get this lead in like a pretty tough neighborhood in Los Angeles. And, we actually, it was a really bizarre scenario. They wanted to negotiate the contract over the phone. And so we spent our time looking at the comps and everything. We're like, okay, we obviously need to see this. But if it meets kind of the criteria that we're looking for, we can buy it for this number. And I remember thinking that was a little weird. It would pop up every once in a while with distressed sellers. But so anyways, long story short, I go to this house on a Saturday morning, knock on the door, and it's probably like a 4 or 5 year old little kid. in just a diaper.
Oh no.
And it's like a 4 or 5-year-old kid, like should be potty trained.
Yeah.
But it was like super saggy. Like you could tell the diaper been on the kid for like a couple days.
Oh no.
So I walked through the property with the seller. The seller leased it back to cousins and hadn't been in the home for like 8 years.
Oh wow.
But there was a stack of dirty diapers from the floor to the ceiling in one of the rooms. And when I walked in, there's like a little 2-year-old baby on a mattress on the floor, and rats were like running around near the diapers. Yeah, I called CPS and I'm like, I don't, I mean, I'm going to buy this house.
Yeah.
But I feel like I have to report this because it was just a terrible environment. I actually, like, at the time, I had a young daughter that was like a year old, and I got in my truck, and it was just like super emotional to see that people live that way.
Yeah.
You know, but, you know, I think like in the end, it was a really positive outcome. We renegotiated the deal. So, and this is probably an unpopular thing to do, but we forced the seller to give the tenants money to go and move into an apartment because he was going to take all the proceeds and they were going to be basically homeless.
Yeah.
And it was like, look, you know, I don't know what's going to happen with the kids, but I'm not buying this unless you give them 50 grand to go and put them in a better situation.
Yeah.
And good luck because here's all of our inspections and like go find somebody else that will buy it.
Yeah.
But we ended up, you know, buying the house and they got into a place and the family ended up moving out to Palm Springs and kind of restarting their life.
Wow.
So I hope they're doing well. I've never stayed in touch with them.
Yeah. But fingers crossed. Yeah, I mean, I think it's just so crazy in this industry, the things that we come across. Like that's why, I mean, some of these stories are comical, but we come across like real life stuff, you know? And I think it's so important to share because the things that are shared are like selling sunset. And you know, that is not like, yes, I do luxury real estate, but that is not like 95% of my time is not that, you know?
It's the wrong, I shouldn't even say it, but I call that real estate porn. Like the TV shows are like pizzazzy and everyone likes to watch it, you know, but it's like actually when you're in the industry, you're like, I probably shouldn't watch this, you know? It's like, you know, something's wrong because it's not like, really what it is.
I feel guilty watching it. Like I actually don't watch them, to be honest, because I'm like, it's just so cringy that it's like so not realistic and it's so far away from like what life actually is that, you know, I always find it really important to share the real stories of what's actually happening. But it's so funny, even when I was in this like small town in Spain and at this like little tiny hut beach bar. They're called, I'm going to say it wrong, but it's called a chiringuito. And it's basically like that. Like it's a little hut, but it's they actually serve amazing food always. Like these are lined all down the beach, and it's like a tradition for like fishermen back in the day. They would catch their fish and they would bring it up. Anyway, so it's this tiny little nothing, and I'm, you know, doing my best to communicate with the girl that works there. We're chatting.
Uno cerveza, por favor.
Yes. And you know, she asks at some point like what I do and where I live, and I told her Orange County and I'm in real estate, and she's like, "Oh, selling sunset." I'm like, just like that. Yeah, that's exactly what it is. Yeah, got it.
What I took away from your story is that I probably need to spend more time in the brokerage because while I'm out like being emotionally distressed, trying to help families in dire need, you're like at this beach bar in Spain. Sounds like I think I need to change careers.
Yeah. You can do it too. You can do it too. Cool. Okay. So moving on, I think we wanted to talk about the rental market a little bit in LA with the fires and really just maybe the fires in general, because it's been a couple weeks since we've touched on that and what things are looking like and what can people expect in that market right now.
I don't know.
I mean, we have ideas.
When I say I don't know, it's you know, it's kind of a wrong statement, but you know, so if you're a new listener, we lost one house, which very lucky, you know, between all the platforms, like, you know, we have Innovate, which represents buyers and sellers. Buy House owns inventory, and then Center Street Lending, you know, we lend capital to fix and flip investors or ground up developers. across all platforms, 3 houses were burned. One, we owned it, Bye Bye House.
Yeah.
And so I think we dodged a major bullet. And, that's, it's tough to say all those things, especially with how much emotional stress people are in after losing their personal belongings. But I don't know. It's a really bizarre, like related to the fires. I was able to go into the Pacific Palisades, not last Monday, but the Monday before. And you had to check into a staging area on PCH in Santa Monica. They verify that you own a house in that area. They give you like this disclosure saying, hey, you're going into a hazardous waste zone.
Oh, gosh.
I mean, they have like full on, white kits with masks and everything if people want them. And they're like saying, hey, you're taking all the responsibility and risk. You might die going in and breathing this air and all this shit. And I'm like, oh, fuck. But it's crazy to walk into it and see the destruction. I mean, it's wild to see what's happened. I mean, it was just crazy. But I've just subsequently been on countless hours with legal, with local officials, with other people that own real estate. I'm in 5 or 6 WhatsApp chats with hundreds of homeowners that are trying to figure everything out. And what I'm seeing right now is that the political side of this and the utility side of this and the environmental side of this are all kind of at a standstill because Trump came out 2 weeks ago and said give them their permits, let them go and build it. But what's happening is environmentalists are saying, and I think it's true, that there were a tremendous number of cars, EV charging cars, battery powered cars that melted.
Right.
So those lithium-ion batteries melted into the soil. Most of these homes were built in the 50s, 60s. They still had asbestos in their joint compounds, so the tape and mud that's holding up drywall, the HVAC systems like the register boots, the transit pipes, flue pipes that would take venting from a water or a it's called a CVA, like a combustible, a gas utility, would take that air out of the house. And that's still asbestos. And so those things are all now in the air and in the dirt.
Yeah.
And the other thing that's kind of tricky is that, the electricity was provided to the Palisades above ground.
Right.
And, it doesn't make sense to go back above ground. The utilities should be putting those subterranean.
Right.
But they're trying to figure all that out. And so, the question, getting back to rentals in just a second, like, the question I have is what happens actually to all of that real estate? Because nobody's going to go back and rebuild until there's infrastructure.
Yeah.
There will be no infrastructure until they start giving permits. And they're not going to start issuing permits until they have a plan for utility.
Right.
And so, I don't know. It's a really complicated issue. And today's not going to make it any better.
Yeah.
I mean, if this rain washes everything into the ocean, I could see politicians having just a complete heyday.
Yeah.
And stopping, like putting a bunch of red tape around not being able to go back and build and whatever. So
yeah,
I don't know what's going to happen with our transaction, but what I think it's going to do in a big way is impact inventory, and it's going to impact the rental market in a massive way in greater Los Angeles.
Yeah.
Couple basic anecdotes, like we have a borrower at CSL. I also every once in a while do some JV deals with him. You know him. I'm not going to say his name. But he had a transaction in Santa Monica that was very strained, is what I would say, leading into the fire. It's a $5 million house, and they were having a hell of a time getting it sold. Post-fire, they had like 15 offers. So there's people, that have enough liquidity that lived in the Palisades that are saying, hey, I'm going to go and buy a $5 million house, or I'll pay $5.5 just to have a fully move-in ready, place.
Yeah.
So we're already starting to see that. We're seeing some of it in Orange County too.
Yeah.
I mean, we have listings that we're bringing back to market or in the South Bay. They're like kind of luxury-ish transactions, and we're seeing a tremendous amount of interest from people that are thinking, hey, let's just get out of LA.
Yeah.
This is a good reason to get out.
Yeah, even people that weren't in the Palisades. Like I feel there are people, there's a feeling of just, leaving LA in general. So
yeah, the neighborhood chats that I'm on, and I'm on one for the Palisades and one for Altadena, and the word that keeps getting thrown around is gross negligence. They feel like there was just a tremendous amount of negligence in the way that the local authorities, responded to the issue or a lack of preparedness for the issue. And so maybe move and just move out of that area. So I think, but the rental market's going to be kind of interesting. The reason I say I don't know what's going to happen with that is that, the person that lives in the Pacific Palisades, I mean, these are like the cheapest house you could possibly buy probably is like a $2.5 million house, maybe in the Palisades. I mean, there are $20-30 million houses that burned down.
Yeah.
That person's not going to go and rent an apartment.
I agree.
That person's also not going to go and rent a small single family house. Like they're going to try to go and purchase something else or just move.
I think temporarily, we might see something while people are trying to find the house that they want. But I completely agree. Like it's, they are wanting the house, right?
Yeah. I heard another argument, I think 2 or 3 nights ago, and I haven't mentioned this to you, but the number of people, I mean, there's extreme wealth in the Palisades. And the number of people that support those wealthy people, like the house cleaners, the tutors, the nannies, they're out of a job now.
Right.
Yeah. And generally that working class person is probably renting, in a, more of a rural area. So, I mean, there is an argument there that I've heard too, that we're going to see a lot of availability in the rental side.
Yeah.
So I've heard both arguments, like rents are going to go up in a big way because inventory is down. I've also heard that the workforce is getting impacted.
Displaced, yeah.
And, maybe those rents are going to be flat or even come back a little bit for entry level rents.
Right.
But I don't know.
Yeah. So I guess we will see. Stay tuned.
Yes.
I love that you have the play-by-plays on all of this. You have an insurance claim that you're filing. You have the neighborhood apps. You have, we have real estate agents and people that we know that have properties. Like we've got all bases covered. If you need to know about the fires, Realty Talk podcast is your stop.
Yeah. I mean, all humbleness, like we're getting invited to a lot of crazy stuff because of the businesses we have. That round table they had when Trump flew out, we got an invite to go and like listen into that. I just didn't want to drive to LA, but but I think we have access to some information. Unfortunately, the information is just not there.
Yeah.
That's the reality. It's like, it's kind of a waiting game for everybody.
Everyone's kind of guessing right now.
Yeah. So.
Okay, well, we have to close with our last segment, which is Rate This Listing. For our listeners that are unfamiliar, we are going to pop up some photos, and Paul and I are going to take a look at the listing. We get location, price of home, number of bedrooms and bath, and square footage, and then we have to rate the listing based off of those. So. Diving in. Okay, Tempe. We both know Arizona. I like that. So $890. Okay,
seems
4 bedroom.
Expensive in Tempe.
Does feel a little high. 4 bedroom, 3 bath, 15 square feet. Okay, all right.
Okay, so we've got like kind of a
deserty.
This was probably a rambler, and there was an addition because there's like a second story on the left-hand side of the house.
Yeah. Okay.
But those windows on the first floor on the left-hand side look kind of low, so maybe it's a split level.
All right, not bad.
Decent,
interesting.
It's probably like a late or like an early 2010s renovation.
There, what is that? What is?
It's like
is that a bird or?
It's like a teal wall.
It's easy to get distracted and just look at that and be like, oh, that's pretty nice. Like, okay, they threw in a pop of color, but then there's like legs coming out of a martini glass on the wall, which kind of threw me.
Yeah, the bar stools are like, the red carpet, gold post, red carpet, red velvet.
Yeah, like we're about to get into something here.
Yeah, I can feel it.
Okay.
All
right, so another neon sign.
It's like a cowgirl with a pistol.
And here's the thing, like this is where it gets upsetting to me because it's like, this could probably be staged pretty well.
Yeah.
Like, I think, this is a clean
there's a
remodeled
disco ball.
home.
How did we miss the disco ball in the corner?
There's a disco ball. But, like, wouldn't you just take the disco ball down? Like, I don't know. Everything else looks okay right now.
Hey!
Oh, okay.
So if you're just listening and you're not watching, there is a woman. There's a painting of a woman She's flipping us off.
I love you describing this, by the way.
She's flipping us off,
it's like
finger
in the most
down.
Professional way possible. You're like, there is a woman.
It is a lot of ass, basically.
Okay,
there is a woman with no pants on, flipping us off.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
Oh, this is a swinger house. The pineapple, upside down pineapple.
Oh, yeah. How do you know that, Paul?
Funny you should ask. Funny you should ask.
Like, that was way too fast for you to identify that.
It's a great story. Actually, my wife, she, neither of us had heard of this. Okay. I can't remember the setting, but we're out to dinner and somebody told us that that's what it was. She's like, I go to this Target and I'm like shopping around or whatever. And I've been to the Target 3 different times and people come up to me and my husband and like, oh, it's just so glad to meet you guys. And like, do you want to come hang out after? And there's an upside down pineapple in their cart. And she's like, I hadn't really thought through it, but she's like, this Target's just really weird. And then she looked it up and it's like, that's like the international sign of we're swingers.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Well,
so Rach told me this story and I'm like, holy shit, I should stop putting upside down pineapples in my cart. That's the only way I buy pineapples. I'm joking, of course, but.
Oh, okay. Well, now we know. This all makes a lot more sense.
It's like a tropical room.
And I will say, I don't know if you've heard this, but like I do know there is a very big swinger community out there. Like it's
in
a
Tempe?
thing. I didn't think it was Tempe, but it was like definitely in Scottsdale, like in that whole area. I have spoken to a lot of people that like that is their lifestyle, and I'm positive that there's a big community.
There's a tiger on the wall with pink glasses.
Okay. Oh, okay. Getting a little racier in the bathroom.
Yeah, it's like a shark jaw, right? And then a woman behind it. I'll say a scantily clad woman.
Thank you.
But if you look at the finishes, holy Toledo.
Oh,
if you go back though and look at the finishes in the finishes are good.
This isn't just this is like where they're having the parties.
I think this is ground floor. Yeah.
This is where the parties are happening. This isn't just like, oh, we live here and we're swingers. This is where the party's at.
So
there's 3 beds next to each other.
3 beds next to each other with like a curtain. There's neon signs that are very. If you're watching, you get to see these. If you're listening, it's there are hand gestures that are extremely suggestive.
Provocative.
Yeah, and so they're asking $890 because they think that they have like something really cool. This is like ground zero for Swingerville. This is like look. This is an astronaut room. There's astronauts playing beer pong.
Okay, all right. This is for the kids. This one's for the kids.
How do we always have stripper poles on all of our rate that listing?
Yeah, I feel like whoever's choosing this,
our producers,
Junior, is really into the polls.
That is, yeah. Okay.
All right. Well,
outside looks awesome.
All right.
You got a little fire pit, a little bar, walk up bar, gazebo.
Okay. Yeah, they're
you even
having
have
a
the
good
fan
time at that place.
Yeah.
Okay.
So this was like this is either like a swinger Airbnb. Like that's the way it was set up.
It was. It reminds me of like the houses in Palm Springs with like all the like the girl
color
what is it? Like the bachelorette.
Yeah.
Like you would go there for a bachelorette. I feel like that would be fun for a bachelorette to be in that house.
That house?
But I mean, like, not me personally, but I could see why people would enjoy that.
The cleaning crew.
No, that's what I was just going to say. I personally would never be able to probably walk into that house.
But if you're trying to sell
I could see where, like, the girl, maybe that would be funny. They could market to that genre.
If I have to rate this, it's like, if you're actually, going back to the listing, like if you're trying to sell this house, it is a 1 out of 5. How are you going to sell that?
No, it actually makes me mad because it's like the house is actually in decent shape. Like you could make that such a cool property and like move that place and sell it. And but again, it just goes down to like, I think that some agents, because we kind of talk about this every week where it's like you had such a great opportunity to do something. And in this one is different because it's like the house is still in good shape. It's not like the house was ruined. Like some of the other ones, it's like they did an alien wall. Like, okay, like I know that's going to be,
like
but
nice,
the finish,
nice cabinets, quartz countertops.
It's like you didn't just take down the neon signs and like call it a day. Like, why would you do that to yourself?
Well, so where my mind is headed is when you, and if you're listening, if you're the agent that listed this, please call or email. I want to talk to you. What was the listing appointment like? You're like, oh, great, I have this new lead and I can't wait to meet this seller. And then you walk in and you're like, holy shit. And they don't want to restage it. They don't want to take out the neon
My
signs.
feeling is they are part of the network.
It's their house.
Could be their house or part of that group. Like that is like they've been to that house before. That is my feeling because like I'm not walking in that house and saying like this is great. Like let's should totally leave this. Yeah. Like this is gonna move in a heartbeat.
So I gave it a 1 out of 5. What do you give it?
Yeah, same. 1
out of 5.
I can't. Yeah.
So agent shit the bed on this one.
Yeah, again, I'm telling you, agents, let's all work together.
Yeah.
Let's I know sometimes it's hard with the seller. There are opportunities. We're really lucky. I'm really lucky because a lot of times you're the seller. So I get to have like much easier conversations. But sometimes you have a seller that really feels strongly about what is left and what is showing in the house. But it's up to you as an agent to challenge that and educate them and really hold firm about, it's what's best for them in the long run and listing that property like that is not what's best for them.
Client control, right? Like you've got to have client control on the scenario.
It's funny you say that. Like I was talking to an agent today where she actually had another agent that called her with his client on the phone. So she represented the seller, he represented the buyer, and he called her to have her talk to his buyer.
Isn't that an ethics issue?
It is. Not only that, but it's, it tells me that you can't handle your buyer, and that you are afraid to have the hard conversation with your buyer to make the listing agent have the hard conversation with your buyer. Like it's crazy. So, maybe if you need some extra training, we've got Mentorical, we've got a lot of options and, bringing it full circle, we're happy to help wherever we can.
Got it. Let's see. So our team is throwing up the explanation of this one. Grab your pineapples and start your engines.
Told ya.
This won't last long. Holy shit.
Oh, see, it's just minutes away from Old Town Scottsdale. Why go out at night when you can bring the nightlife to you? So they're just embracing it,
I think you know it. This is the agent's house.
Yeah. But you have cut off you've cut off like 90% of buyers,
Yeah, dead. Yeah, they're not. Yeah,
95%.
Oh my gosh!
Of buyers,
if I walked in that house, I'd be like, I got to. I mean, I'm not.
I would
can't walk
immediately go take a shower.
Yeah,
that's what I would have to do.
Yeah, very interesting. Well, in closing, I have some thoughts.
Oh, give us your closing thoughts, Paul.
I feel like the conversation was really intriguing today. I just feel like if you're an agent in Southern California and you're not currently inspired by your brokerage or the people that you're working with, you have to call Innovate right now.
Yeah.
Because the business itself is growing rapidly. We have amazing new agents joining the team. And I think the actions that our agents are taking are separating them from the competition in the market. And I would use like a couple of data points, in our New Year planning sessions that you and I talked, or you referenced at the beginning. One of the things that I was really intrigued to understand is our market share with, per team, per location. And that's really more of that's probably the best indicator to understand if we're doing a really good job. And if your market share is decreasing, obviously, I think your team is either shrinking or you're doing a bad job. If your market share is increasing, you're probably doing a bang-up job. Or if you're flat, it's probably good. And I think across the board, our market share is increasing in all the major markets that we're operating in. And so it's easy if you're an agent to look at yourself and say, man, this year was just really tough financially. Maybe I made half what I made, 3 years ago. But if your market share is actually increasing, that's a really strong data point. Like this is just kind of the normal for a minute. And, if you stay in the game long enough, you take the right actions, there's going to be a boom at some point.
Right.
And you're going to reap the benefits from that. And that'll be uncomfortable during the hard time. But if you are an agent in Southern California right now and your market share is decreasing, like you're doing less on average on an annual basis than you were previously, pro rata, then you're at the wrong place.
Yeah.
Like your team is inspiring you to take the wrong actions. You should be increasing market share in a tough market. So yeah, I mean, it's a guilty call out. Like I'm just saying, hey, come to our brokerage.
It's just so clear, right? Like
it feels that way.
Yeah, sometimes you just got to say it. Like it's clear. So.
Yeah, I had to do it. It's an Innovate plug.
We'll take it. We did a Smart Pest plug.
Yes.
Innovate plug.
Yeah.
Shameless. Go for it.
Why not?
Okay.
That's all I have. And
all right.
Closing. Anything else from you?
No, I think we covered it. I thank you for the conversation today. I hope our listeners subscribe if you haven't already.
Yeah, helps a lot.
Yeah, and we'll see you next time. Yay.